To understand the Israeli decision, I think we have to look at the deeper motivations which have been at work, frankly, for decades now. To look at the window of opportunity, which opened since the autumn of 24, and to look at the immediate circumstances which drove the decision. At the broadest sense, we have a situation. I have been at the Prime Minister's elbow in my years, listening to him say again and again the two most dangerous things that could happen to us and to the world is one, for the crazies in Iran to get the bomb, and two, for the bomb that Pakistan already has to fall into the hands of crazies if the regime there changes. By the way, in this respect, the fact that the Pakistanis felt obliged to declare that they are not involved in supporting Iran is a good indication that, at least in Islamabad, the country is still in the hands of rational people. But that's just an aside. On Iran, we know that this is a regime deeply committed to our destruction, to our elimination. It has an exterminatory agenda when it comes to Israel, although in practice, until April last year, they did this almost strictly through their proxies, through their agents, through Hezbollah, through whatever elements they could find, mostly Shia, but not exclusively Shia. In some cases, even criminal organizations in Europe willing to do their work. And the result was that Israel reluctantly, very reluctantly, came to recognize that Iran is the supreme threat to our survival in the region. I still recall days in which Israeli military intelligence closed down the Iranian section at the analysis division because, well, they are stuck with the Iraqis. They have a war with them. What do we care? No, but for the more than 2 decades now, this is no longer the case. So as we watched their nuclear and penetrated intelligence-wise their nuclear project, we knew all along that the key element is not only enrichment, on which they were working and accelerated since 2018, but also the work of the weapon group. And they did suspend the work of the weapon group in 2003, but there are very strong indications that they resumed work on weaponizing weapon-grade enriched uranium in the last few months, specifically, and therefore the essential decision had to be taken to prevent them from bringing this project into fruition. This is on the basics, because we have to bear in mind, for the Iranian regime, being in the business of destroying Israel is central to who they are. It is the explanation, in a way, to the Iranian people of why they had to suffer so much in comparison with their neighbors. It's a country that could have been prosperous and is not, that could have had a GDP per capita at the Turkish level, and it is a full order, scale of below the Turks, who are their neighbors and with whom they trade. So, and all of this in order to be able to be in a position to threaten Israel with an existential threat. So this is central to who they are, and this has to change. And this is why this was coming in one way or the other. And the Prime Minister supported action already in 2010, 2012. But at the time, the defense establishment felt very strongly that this is not, that there are other options and this is not ripe. What's changed, and here I'm moving to the window of opportunity, what's changed the calculus for Israel was the fact that, on one hand, Iran's proxies suffered a dramatic defeat in the autumn of 24, with Hezbollah essentially taken out of the equation. The most powerful deterrent that Iran had over the years is now out. And I think one of the most dramatic aspects of the current situation is that for the last 5 days, amidst heavy Israeli attacks on Iran, Hezbollah is sitting this one out. This is precisely what it was built for, armed for, financed for over the years, and they are sitting this one out. So far, at least. Let's be careful. But so far, they're sitting this one out. And so I would. This is a non-event, which is as important as any event that we have seen in recent years. And moreover, Israeli responses, Air Force responses to the Iranian attacks on Israel in April and October 24, and revealed that the Iranian air defenses can be overcome effectively, and that Israel can gain air superiority, air dominance over the skies of Iran. And therefore, again, this window of opportunity opened. We still have, we are still under attack, including right now this morning. And the Houthis are also sporadically firing at us. But essentially, the Iranian deterrent posture has been very severely eroded, and the window of opportunity opened. Now, the actual timing, Netanyahu has openly told the public that he was planning to act already in April based on the intelligence we had. But the time was wrong. And I interpret this to be deeply related, and the entire operation is deeply related to what was happening between the Americans and the Iranians. I'll come back to it later. I'll let Alex give you a sense of what's happening in Iran. But the Americans, certainly Trump wanted to combine a credible military threat with the positioning of bombers in Diego Garcia and so on, with a willingness to negotiate, which the Iranians, contrary to their past posture, actually agreed to do. And so Israel was, to some extent, constrained in its actions, as long as there was a prospect that the Iranians would come to an agreement that the United States was demanding, the kind of agreement that the United States was demanding. Moreover, there was also a kind of another reason not to act early. If there would be a chance that the United States would actually act on its own with a much greater effect on Iran, specifically on deeply dug facilities such as Fordow, then it would have been much preferable to wait for this to happen than to go unilaterally. And so the decision was taken in April and again in May to wait and see where things are going, where this particular cat is going to jump. I think by 13th June, or 9th June, actually, when the decision was taken to implement it 4 days later, two things became clear. One, that the American-Iranian negotiations are going nowhere, because the Iranians, as Trump himself has said, the Iranian hardliners, some of whom are already dead, decided not to respond to the American demand to halt and end uranium enrichment. And as a result, Trump himself was expressing his frustration with these negotiations, and retroactively has said that essentially his 60 days ultimatum to the Iranians has expired. At the same time, it was also becoming increasingly clear that for a complex set of reasons, which I will discuss later, the United States is not likely to take the military initiative. And so at that point, the decision was taken for Israel by President Netanyahu and the key, very limited group of people in charge of this decision to launch the attack that has been prepared meticulously over a long period of time. It is I would say, I'm not objective on this matter, but it's a masterpiece of combining covert operations, Air Force capabilities, deep intelligence penetration, and so on. And the results were so far are spectacular. And I think we are beginning to see some indications that the Iranians are internalizing the full scope of their, well, essentially, what is amounting to a defeat. But it will take. We know
Let's
that
hear
these
about that
things
from
take time.
Alex.
Hi.
Hi,
All
Iran.
right. So at this point, I think let Alex take over and see what things look like for from those who observe Iranian affairs.
Thank
Yes,
you.
so
Thank you, Iran. Thank you.
and you said some words in the beginning. We missed it because we were in the
Yes,
shelter.
I just gave the explanation of what drove the Israeli decision at the basic level, at the level of the window of opportunity, and what drove the specific timing in 9th of June for the decision to act.
Thank you very much, Iran. And thanks to everybody for participating. I see Jacob came up late, and so did I, because of the fact that we had to stay in the shelters until we were released. You can never plan anything in Israel these days. That's part of our life. But we'll move with the program. And since Iran has already spoke about the conditions that led to the attack, I think maybe we'll move to Alex, that will share with us a little bit about Alex Greenberg, who's an expert on Iran and can share with us a little bit about the feeling in Iran following what's happening, and to what extent they are already ready to give up.
Good morning, Sabatan Bekhair. So I'm broadcasting virtually from Tehran. It is always very interesting and also exciting. What is happening now is that the Iranian leadership is in a disarray. Simply speaking, they don't know what to do because they were attacked at the lowest point of their historical might. They're in the weakest situation they have ever been since the establishment of the Iranian Republic, because they lost their strategic assets, namely Hezbollah and their holdout in Syria. And also they made several strategic errors. Namely, they were certain, well, me too, I admit that if Israeli strikes were coming, it wouldn't come before Sunday, because the Americans said reportedly there would be negotiations in Oman. I admit I also thought in that vein, but they got it wrong, and now they're facing the result. Also, it's very interesting that only a month ago, Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi made a reference for the first time for the possibility of an Israeli strike. They started realizing something or anything, but too little too late, because one must keep in mind that usually over the years, the Iranians never mentioned the possibility of an Israeli strike, because they took too seriously American or Israeli declarations that Israel can or not do anything. And now they simply don't have many options. So they're continuing to launch missiles, but again, I don't know how many they still have. The chain of command is severely damaged, which complicates the things.
Even more damaged right now, by the way.
Oh,
Shadmani and his
sure.
command structure was also struck this morning,
Oh,
tonight.
well, thank you, Ron. Great news. And one must understand that military decision making has always been a complicated thing everywhere. For example, when someone says, but if Iran feels pressed to the wall, they might do something terrible. What we are doing. So very often behind these frightening declarations is in fact something else. It's not a military estimate. It's a will of someone that Israel must stop its achievements, and we are now frightened. Oh, Iran will do something horrible. So okay, so let's think what Iran can do. Not very much, because the only irrational thing that Iran could do technically, it's to launch missile attacks on Saudi petrol installations. So maybe it's technically possible, but I fail to understand why Iran should bother to supply the US with a perfect casus belli. But now there's no doubt what the American reaction will be. And second, when someone thinks of closing the Straits of Hormuz, first, as far as I know, the Iranians have never really tried to do that, even during the first Gulf War. And the second one must understand that closing the Straits of Hormuz, it's a long process. One does it with ships. They must receive an order. They must move. There's a chain of command. And finally, I'm sure that submarines of Luxembourg, not only the Air Force of Luxembourg, are also somewhere in the Gulf. So these are the options. Now, one must always distinguish between various nuances, and with what we have a problem in Israel. It's not black and white. For instance, Iran is not a paper tiger, because when I say Iran is a paper tiger, I mean that the threat is irreal, non-existent. It's not the case of Iran. Iran is dangerous. It is a danger, but it has multiple weak points that happily Israel this time succeeded in using. Now, the second part, maybe the most intriguing and interesting. Uh, from what I see on the social media, and also when I talk to my personal Iranian friends, people are really happy. There are plenty of hashtags like Kotlet Shod, like another IRGC officer became a barbecue. So this is a very widespread hashtag in Iran. And of course, people in Tehran come out and take a pic of a flying Israeli planes, because they all know that we have no intention whatsoever to hit non-involved Iranians. They know who the target is, but still a caveat. Still, all that does not mean that a popular uprising, a counter-revolution, is on the way. Why? My answer is that I believe in this case, I'm rather certain of what I'm saying, because I have a Russian Soviet experience. I have just a little bit of taste of what does it mean to live under an authoritarian regime. The problem is that this longing or yearning for uprising, it has never happened anywhere. The fact that people hate the regime doesn't mean they're ready to topple it. In a general, no regime has ever been toppled by popular resentment or protest. A regime is toppled only when clearly organized political group is ready to put their lives in risk and try to topple the regime. So what is happening now, it's very difficult to foresee. And I think Israel must focus more on the implementation of its operational plan, which is to deny nuclear capacity, missile capacity, and to deny the Iranian regime its damage capacity or to decrease it as much as possible. All the rest depends on the will of the Iranian people. Israel cannot launch revolutions abroad. I think that America either by remote control. It never works. And the situation is this. And for the moment, I think, I feel strongly that everything is going as planned. And כל הכבוד לצה"ל. Thank you.
Thank you, Alex. Thank you very much. And just one question. Suppose we eliminate Mr. Khamenei. What's going to change in Iran?
I think this is, well, of course, it's I don't know, but this would end the Iranian regime. Indeed, this would finish the regime because I don't really, it's literally impossible to fathom what will happen next. But I think that this, maybe I think Avi Davidi can explain more. That should be only as the last resort. If the IDF keeps going with its program and still nothing happens, I mean the goals that are not achieved completely, then it should be the step, but still killing the political leader. It must be done if necessary, but not, I would say not now. Though, of course, the person merits death. There has no been one speech of Khamenei over the years where he had not mentioned his denial of the Holocaust and the need to destroy Israel. Shamkhani, his chief top military advisor, who was a former admiral and commander.
Shamkhani was.
Shamkhani, yeah, he was his. So he is finally dead. I don't know, but he was
Yes, it's
his.
confirmed.
He was his top military advisor, commander of the RGC Navy, also a dentist. And he was a real military intellect. He was writing very serious articles on naval battle and about the use of drones in naval combat, etc., etc. And also he consistently was praising the massacre of Hamas since October 7, every day, every week in several languages. So all these people, there's no question for me that the people who glorify the massacre of Hamas day and night, every kinetic action against them is justified.
Thank you.
Good morning. Can I add something, Cooper?
Yeah, Avi, it's your turn. But, Dr. Avi Davidi, who's a new expert on Iran, with a very long experience in this field, many years in the United States and in Israel, researching this issue. Please, Avi, what's your take on what's going to happen?
First of all, I apologize for the delay. I was at the shelter with my kids, and I think that is a reality that everyone has to understand about how we live the life in Israel. And all of us as citizens, we are part of the war. So it's not a war that's at the front, it's a war with the civilians. So sorry about the delay. Just continuing and stressing what Alex has said, I think that eliminating Khamenei as the leader of the country, it really depends on the timing. It depends what has been done before that, what progress that we have done, who has been eliminated so far, and how much progress do we have? Do we have the US involved or not? So it's a really a very complex and a lot of reasons involved when we want to eliminate him. If you ask me if this is today is not a good situation. We're doing a favor to him and to Iran. if you eliminate him today specifically, yes, he does not have anyone specifically officially who is supposed to inherit him. But we had the same situation in '88 also when Khomeini passed away, that I was in the army and everyone thought that that's it, it's the end of the regime. The regime is still organized. We have all the structures in place. We have the Council of Experts, Council of Assembly, the Expediency Councils. We have so many different councils that they can put together a different council of 3 to 5 people and to make it a transitional leadership until they decide who is the next leader. So I'm saying that it really depends. If we eliminate him, we have already finished everything that we want to do with the nuclear facilities and other stuff. So I would say let's wait. Let's wait for another week or two if we want to have this operation succeed completely and to achieve its goals. I want to emphasize, because I think that sometimes the last few days we are talking so much about the toppling the regime or regime change in Iran, that we forget that actually what are the goals of these specific Israeli strikes. There are 3 goals: the nuclear and the missiles, and to make sure that Iran is not supporting any more terror. This is what the prime minister is now stating. So we are still there. We are still taking care of it. So matter of fact, just summarize it, eliminating Khamenei or not, I'm not sure if it's good for us right now. If we want some sort of a deal, so he's the one to make the deal. If we don't want the deal, okay, so let's make a mess, eliminate him today if it's possible, and don't let the Americans to have a deal with them, and we'll continue the situation. Maybe it will get worse, okay? And I want to emphasize one more thing. Today, this morning, just 10 minutes before we got the alerts, the sirens, it was published in Iran what Arakchi, the foreign minister, said today. So he referred to the IDF attacks on the Iranian broadcaster IRIB, and listen what he says. The entire thing that was published, he did not mention once the name of Israel, the Zionists, or the US. He talked about they, okay? They thought, and they thought that by attacking our broadcasting institute or the national broadcast, they keep us quiet, so we cannot report anymore. They thought that so I think that the tone, still the tone that some sort of leaving enough room to get in for negotiation. Okay, that's what's important. And he would not do that without pre-approval by the leader. So it seems like if we decide that we want to escalate things and we want to have the war in our way without the US, okay, so eliminate him. But if you want to have a little bit more, at least another few weeks, for continue the way that it is, and to have someone being able to negotiate maybe something, so Khamenei is the only way to go.
I understand from you that you think, Avi, that the Iranians might be willing to accept some sort of negotiations that eventually would probably lead to some agreement that is putting a cap over their nuclear aspirations. Is that so?
No, not the cap, but to get out of the current situation. I don't think that the Iranians, they believe that we will attack them the way that it is and will succeed to attack them and to get up the Air Force defense. I think the last 2-3 days, Arakchi has been very clear with a statement that we will stop if Israel stops, okay? You wouldn't hear that if they didn't want to stop it, okay? So I think that they are willing, they want to stop it because they understand that it's not a good situation for them. It really reminds me, of course, there are differences, but it reminds me also why Hezbollah stopped. Because if we continue, they will only lose their more capabilities. Look, Hezbollah agreed to stop, and they saved whatever they had. And the Iranians, they understand, in my opinion, right now, that if they continue this way, even without the US helping us or being with us, if we continue this way a few more days, up to 1 week or two, we will continue to destroy their capabilities. And this is exposing their vulnerabilities in the eyes of the Iranian people. Last night was a very funny footage of the people outside. We were guessing for an hour or two if it was a jail that was bombed by Israelis, and then the prisoners, they got out. Apparently, this was a facility for those drug addicts that they got out. The funny part was that the footage showed that people that are driving and they saw all these men with the same clothing, a very light color, and they're walking on the freeway. And people didn't understand where are they coming from. So there was one footage of two ladies who were driving that road, and they were extremely afraid of who are these people? Who are these men with the same clothes? What are they doing? Are they going to attack us? So they were probably in some sort of facility. This shows the level of the panic also of the Iranian people. And this is also indication of the Iranian regime. What we hear the last 2-3 days, Cooper, is really the wording that leaves them the room for negotiation. As I said, Arachchi this morning did not mention anymore Israel and the US. They put them together. He believes that this is the way to go. He didn't talk about Gaza anymore. Gaza is out of the picture. They are not talking that much about that. And 2-3 days ago, he talked about if Israel stops, we'll stop. And if the US wants agreement, it should not send the private messages. It should be public that they want to have a deal. And I think that immediately President Trump said that. So yes, if I answer the question, otherwise I will expand on it.
Okay, let's move to General Amidror, our distinguished fellow, the Greg Horsandler fellow at the JISS. Jacob, you wrote something that I haven't even had a chance to see if it was published about the strategic context of the war. So
I must say that it is fascinating to hear the experts for the Iranian issues. And, you know, it's a society which most of us really don't have a lot of information about, and the way that they think is totally different than ours. I remember that during the war between Iran and Iraq, the head of the intelligence was in the parliament, in the Knesset, and he said to the subcommittee that he briefed that the war is going to continue because the Iranians are not ready to compromise. On his way from Jerusalem to Tel Aviv, it was announced that the Khomeini is ready to sign an agreement with the Iraqis to stop the war. Just to give you an example how far our thoughts and our assessment from the way that they are thinking, and the question that I don't have an answer to. What is the point, if there is a point? What is the point in which Khamenei will say enough is enough? I don't want to destroy Iran. I lost this time. The next generation will do the job. I'm still for the destruction of Israel, but what I see is the destruction of Iran. Let's in Hebrew we say "lishtot et kos hatar'ela." We will.
As Khomeini said.
Yes, that's Khomeini said exactly. This is why I'm quoting it. That's what I'm quoting. That in some situation you don't have any other choice but to drink the poison that on the table, and the poison on the table is a bad agreement from the Iranian point of view with America. I don't know. It might be tomorrow, and it might be that it will not happen, that Khamenei is different than Khomeini. Maybe, I don't know. And I want to speak about the Israeli side. With all due respect, I don't know if the Americans will come in. We are not taking it into account. If they will come in, God will bless them. We were not urging them to come in. The whole operation was built on the assumption that we will do the job. And I want to say something about the operation, not about what will happen at the end, because I don't know what will happen at the end. And I don't like all the Israelis who speak all the time about the day after when we don't know what will happen today, but they are speaking about the day after. You know, the Americans decided what will be the day after in the last year of the Second World War. Before that, they asked what will happen tomorrow. And how to win the war against Japan and Germany in parallel. Look, the war was declared by the by the first operation of the IDF and the Mossad, because we came to the conclusion that it is the last window that we have. Within 2 years, the Iranians had a plan to produce 10,000 of missiles. They had a special team which was nominated to accelerate the nuclear project. They had enough enriched uranium, and they need now to move fast to the weaponization level. And they had the knowledge how to do it. They don't have the practice how to do it, but they have the knowledge how to do it. All the scientists which had been eliminated in the first days, in the first 2 days of the operation, were part of this team which dealt with weaponization and how to integrate the bomb into the missiles that they are producing. And they begin to think how to rebuild the axis of evil after the collapse of the ring of fire around Israel in the year and a half of the war. So it was understood here that maybe it's the last opportunity that we have. And the decision was taken around half a year ago that we are going on and we will do whatever is needed. And the preparation in our side had been accelerated. No question that the fact that the whole situation was different than the times when I was in, when we had to take into consideration what would be the reaction of Hezbollah and Hamas and Islamic Jihad and the Syrians, blah, 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 blah. All that disappeared from the table, and we could concentrate all our efforts and preparations in one direction, Iran. And that was, in a way, the collapse of the Iranian strategy before the operation began. Because the whole strategy of the Iranians was to build a ring of fire around Israel that Israel will have to take care for and to waste time, energy, and blood before we begin to make the 1,500 kilometers to reach Tehran. And that was all that structure of the Iranian disappeared from the planning table. We don't have to take into consideration all those proxies of Iran anymore. That made the whole planning much, much easier, and the ability to concentrate was people are saying that Israel didn't have a strategy. Nonsense. Israel had a strategy. The strategy was that we are doing every step one by one and try as much as possible not to be engaged in two fronts. In the 10th of October 23, the Prime Minister made a decision. We are not using the opportunity that we had in Lebanon. We concentrate all our efforts in Gaza. Only when the Gaza first stage was ended and we had the opportunity or the question, use it or lose it regarding the BIFers, he decided to concentrate on Lebanon. And when we concentrate on Lebanon, we tried to prevent any Iranian involvement. And when the Iranians attacked us, we didn't make the mistake of making huge operations in Iran. He said, okay, you attacked us, that way we're just singling you that we can reach targets in Iran. We neutralized the S-300, which was the backbone of the Iranian anti-air system. We learned many lessons from this attack, and we say, wait, we are waiting for you. We will come. First of all, we have to finish with the Hezbollah. And when we had the opportunity in Syria, we didn't hesitate. We made the move on the ground, and we eliminated all the hardware of the old army of Assad. So the new regime will not have any opportunity to build a new army, and that opened a corridor with free corridor without any threat to our air force from Israel through Syria, Iraq, and Iran. And then we in the plan, it was clear for us that after eliminating the people that might move from one place to another, the scientists, the commanders, the decision makers within the military system, we went after the anti-air system of Iran, and we succeeded to strip it all. In the west part of Iran, which is the gate from which we are entering to Iran, they don't have anti-air missiles anymore. And the corridor which led through the Syria without any ability to intercept the Air Force, and through Iraq, which doesn't have the ability to intercept the Air Force, we reached the point in which the Iranians cannot intercept the Air Force, at least in the west part of Iran. And slowly, we are broadening the area in which we don't have anti-air system. We are going gradually and doing it, and within a few days, Iran will not have any anti-air capability. And the meaning of it, that he can fly over Iran directly from Israel, refueling over Iraq or Syria, wherever there is a need, and then to fly over Iran with our aeroplanes, manned and unmanned planes, whenever we want, forever we want, day and night. So it is totally different situation than now after 4 days of war than what had at the beginning. And the strategy of Israel was clear, one by one. Based on what we learned when we were young, tafasta meruba lo tafasta. If you take too much, you don't take anything. And that was the basis of our strategy, because we knew that the IDF doesn't have the ability to fight in so many fronts parallelly. We knew the limitations of our Air Force. Under Biden, it was even more limited than today, because they prevent us from having some of the munition that we ask for. Now it is open. So this is the new situation. What Israel's goals are? First, what we want is to degrade the ability of the Iranians to build nuclear military capacity in the future. For that, we kill the scientists. For that, we destroy facilities on the ground. We didn't finish yet. We know that Fordo is waiting, and we will continue to act against those facilities. In Natanz, probably the damage is huge. In Isfahan, probably the damage is huge. But we know that there are some facilities that we have to destroy, and we will do it probably. The second issue, which we learn is becoming a huge threat for Israel, is the ability of the Iranians to produce thousands of missiles every year. And you see what happened today with the limited number that they have. So now we are destroying the ability of the Iranians to produce missiles step by step. And that will take a long time, because they have a huge infrastructure for that. But at the end of the war, we want to be in a position in which they cannot produce any more long-range missiles that can be launched into Israel and Europe. They had a plan, by the way, to produce missiles that can reach United States of America within a few years. But all this infrastructure should be destroyed. And now, when we are controlling the skies of Iran, it's not a mission impossible. On the contrary, that was the second. This is the second effort of us, and now we want to destroy the chain of command infrastructure, and for that we have to go all over Iran, to begin in Tehran. This is the strong point of the whole system, to take it out of balance. And this is why the Center of communication which was used by the Iranian television was bombed, and slowly we are weakening the regime in Iran. Everyone is saying, do you want to reach the point of regime change? Theoretically, yes, but we know that for that you need an opposition. We can make the regime in Tehran much much weaker. No question, with the control of the Air Force over Tehran, it can be done. But we cannot produce an opposition, and it's very interesting to hear our Iranian expert. It's not easy to do it in Iran. I mean, it is not something which is waiting behind the corner and will emerge the minute that the regime will lose the
Club
control.
loyalty members? No? For every $5.20 you spend, roughly, you earn around 30.
Sorry?
Go ahead, Amdo.
I hope that it was not a cyber breach. But it might happen. No one would cry in Israel if we hear it. But it's something that we know that we can walk on one side, weakening the regime. We cannot produce the opposition. For that, you need something that Israel doesn't have. It's patience, and we don't have. So these are our aims, and we are slowly and gradually achieving it. Not everything can be achieved in 4 days. We are only 4 days in the war. It looks like we are months, but no, it's only 4 days. And we need another, I don't know, 40 will be a good number.
Thank you, Amidor. Iran, you spoke in the beginning about the context in which we started the war, but there's one big question mark hovering over this entire operation, and this is whether the United States is going to get more involved and take upon itself to take care of the Fordow facility.
In the preparation for in the preparations and the plan, that was open. We didn't take it into account. We decided that war will be done. We understood after the dialogues with the Americans that this war will be done by Israel. We will be more happy if the Americans will come in and do some part of the job. But the assumption at the beginning was that it will be done by Israel, and by gaining control of the skies of Iran, it can be done.
Clearly,
I would
the question mark now is whether the Americans are going to do something about it themselves.
I think that the Americans don't know.
Let me first say that in the preparatory stage, there were noises coming out of Washington that suggested a sharp disagreement with Israel, the expectation that Israel will not act without American permission or whatever. They increasingly look in retrospect as something that was done, which helped. I don't know if it was done deliberately, but it certainly helped lull the Iranians into complacency and catch them unaware the night of the early morning hours of the 13th of June. But I would also be very careful not to over-construct this as an explanation, because sometimes conspiracies do exist here and there, but conspiracy theories are very often tempting but not accurate. I would say that the decision, essentially decision has not yet been taken in Washington or in the mind of President Trump, whether to intervene or not. And the 4 or 5 major considerations that would affect this decision do not sit very well with each other. There are tensions, and these tensions are visible in the contradictory language that sometimes comes out of Washington within hours of from one statement to another. Let me read you the latest, because I've just seen this. This is Donald Trump reacting to the statement by Macron that he left the G7 in Canada in order to seek a ceasefire between Israel and Iran. Publicity-seeking President Emmanuel Macron of France mistakenly said that I left the G7 summit to go back to DC to work on a ceasefire between Israel and Iran. Wrong. He has no idea why I'm now on my way to Washington, but it certainly has nothing to do with a ceasefire. Much bigger than that. Whether purposely or not, Emmanuel always gets it wrong. Stay tuned. Now, so
no, it's not about Iran. It's about Macron.
So it's first of all about Macron, but it's much bigger than that. I think there are, as I said, there are 4 or 5 considerations.
In this case, I think that for him, that the fact that he's going to sleep in the White House is bigger than that. I mean, you cannot translate it to something.
Yeah, I wouldn't. But let me put it like this. First of all, there is one clear, I think, and consistent position that Trump has taken and continues to take, which is that he's not going to allow the Iranians to get the bomb, and that he fully internalized the, let's say, the intelligence assessment that Iran was on its way and must be stopped. And he gave them 60 days to say yes to his negotiating position. And when they didn't, he has retroactively given full support for the Israeli rationale for action. By the way, this is also coming out, if I read the language right, this is also coming out of the G7, an understanding of Israel's right to defend itself against what could very well have been an existential threat. And I think he internalizes also, and he has made it very bluntly clear, that this is not just an Israeli problem. That from his perspective, Iran with the bomb is a threat not only to Israel. It is a threat to America's ability to be great again, and he has written this in no uncertain language and in capital letters. Preventing Iran from having the bomb is part of what America first and make America great again mean to him. And he, after all, is essentially in his mind, he's the author of these definitions and slogans. So he is, at this level, he is committed. If Israel will do the job, fine. Israel now faces the delicate dilemma of whether to say to the Americans, no, we cannot do the job, you have to do it, which would have very complicated consequences, or to persist seeking the tools, as Churchill once said, give us the tools, we shall finish the work to get the job done. But this first principle is there in Trump's position. At the same time, he's also very full of his self-worth as a deal maker, and is referred to his intervention in various situations. Of course, he has failed so far to move Putin and Zelensky to end the war, but he takes pride in being involved in controlling the Pakistani-Indian crisis. And he has raised other issues that are, there's some question marks as to whether he really deserves the credit for the fact that Egypt and Ethiopia are not at war. But he certainly looks upon himself as a deal maker, and he keeps asserting that Iran and Israel could come, or that's to say the United States and Iran, could come to a deal that we can live with, given the first principle that I've just referred to. So he's trying again and again also to get the Iranians to come to their senses, to understand that they've lost this war already, and that they should come to the table on American terms. Hence the current rumors about a possible meeting between Witkoff and Arakchi. The third aspect, which I think has a role in restraining his action, is that within his base there is a group. I'm not talking about the progressives. The progressives have no impact on his policy, but there are people traditionally close to him, who are very much opposed to the United States getting into another war, and who are very much opposed to the United States being a and some of them are
Yes,
to
but
be very.
Iran, there is a new poll now,
I
just
know. I
now
saw
published.
the World Landon poll on the
It's
MAGA base.
75% of his supporters are for the war
Yeah.
against Iran.
Right, and I'm coming to this. He had to take this to some extent into account because there were loud voices there, and there are some elements of this within his own administration. Frankly, if you read the language of Tucker Carlson, it's frankly, don't do this on behalf of the Jews. And his list of influences has more than a touch of traditional anti-Semitic tropes to it. The interesting thing is that Trump has responded just now by saying, could someone tell Cookie, Tucker Carlson, that Iran must not have the bomb. In other words, he's repudiating the legitimacy of this pressure from the MAGA elements. But nevertheless, his own basic instinct, his promise to his voters was to get America out of wars rather than into another. And I think this is still a factor. It's evolving. Definitely a great number of let's say Trump supporters, Trump's base supporters are actually very pro-Israeli in the basic instincts, and this is reflected in the latest Landon polling. And we will have to wait and see what is the effect. The fourth consideration, it's not a major one, but it is there, is the position of the Gulf countries. Their assumption is that if the Americans get into the war, the Iranians may finally cross the barrier, which they've promised to do. The Iranians, it's very interesting. Iran has always said that they will, if attacked, they will strike against America, they will strike against the Gulf countries. They've done nothing of the sort so far, which tells you that the impact of the attack and the impact of American warnings is quite powerful. They have been deterred from doing what they have promised to do all these years. But the Gulf countries are eager for this not to happen, and they may have their own influence. And there is also a hint, not more than that, that Trump is also thinking or has to worry about how China and Russia would react in terms of lending support to Iran, which until now they have not really done, although there are some indications of Chinese supply to Iran. So all of these considerations are still at work. I believe that Trump's preferences for Israel to carry on with American support to the necessary conclusion. So the working assumption in Israel should be that we are in a 1940 situation, not a 1942 situation. That is to say, America is sympathetic, as it was to Churchill in his day, but it is not coming in. Unless the Iranians make the mistake of attacking American targets or Gulf targets, and if there are indications that this is what is about to happen, this could explain some of the flurry of American military preparations and Trump's own conduct in the last few days. If that happens, this resolves the American dilemma altogether. If not, I'm not ruling out that they will intervene at some point because it's easier to finish off Fordo with what they have rather than with what we have. But we cannot count on that. And one last point, ultimately, of course, Iran is not Gaza. We're not going to conquer it. And as General Amidro told you, and I agree, we can also hope for regime change in Iran, but we cannot count on it or organize it from where we are, nor does Washington seek to do that. If it happens, wonderful, but we're not going to go in and make it happen. And so ultimately, this will be settled by some kind of diplomatic or political decision in Iran to accept American demands. And Israel should work out with the Americans very carefully what are the clear and decisive elements that must be included in any such a deal that brings operations to a close.
Thank you, Eran. Let me say a few words before I open it also to some questions. First of all, we enjoy now a very unique situation where we have the air superiority over Tehran, and we have enough legitimacy from the international community to continue with our operations in Iran against those three targets that we are looking at, both the nuclear facilities, the ballistic missile facilities, and the regime facilities that are supposed to be somehow connected with the idea of convincing Iran not to support terrorism in the future. That's the time that we have in order to finish the job is a unique situation, which always we were worried about how much time are we going to have. This time we are going to have enough time to finish the job. One of the reasons we have enough time is that the United States doesn't want to get involved directly. So the best way for them to deal with the matter is and to put pressure on Iran in order that Iran will accept the deal is to use the Israeli leverage. So that's one thing that we have, and we need the time. As Amidor said, and many others have explained, we need the time because we are still not anywhere close to finishing the job. We have a list of targets organized in a priority order, and we took care of those who are most important right in the beginning, the scientists, Natanz, the uranium conversion facility in Isfahan, which is critical. You cannot produce a nuclear weapon without conversion of the gas, of an enriched gas into metal. So we took care of this facility first. And some of the other elements that comprise the weaponization program, some of the sites in Parchin, near Tehran, were taken care of as well. So we have managed to already cause a lot of damage to the program, but we still have to deal with Fordow. We still have to deal with other facilities that are used in order to produce centrifuges. We still have to do more damage to Natanz itself. We didn't hit the underground facilities in Natanz, although we caused a lot of damage over there by hitting the outside facilities, the overground facilities. We hit the power generation plant over there that caused the centrifuges inside the holes underneath the ground to explode, and a lot of damage was done without entering the Natanz facility itself, the underground facility itself. But we need also to make sure that the underground facility is hit. And there's a lot of work to do on the nuclear project still. Same with the ballistic missiles. We managed to accomplish unbelievable results. We hit about 30% of the launchers. We hit a lot of the missiles themselves, but the Iranians still have a vast capacity to launch ballistic missiles in our direction, as we witnessed this morning as well, again. And this is not going to come to an end anytime soon. We need more time to reach each and every target. The air superiority that we have allows us to operate in the skies of Iran as if we are operating in Lebanon with closed circuits. And once we have information, we can send our planes and take care of an appearing launcher or missile. But as we did yesterday several times. But Iran is so big that you cannot have a plane everywhere, and you have to take time and be prepared. Anyhow, this is very impressive. And that said, we cannot know what's going to happen in the day after. So Amidor said correctly, it's too early to say. We have a dream that the regime would change and would be replaced by people who are ready to give up on the nuclear project and maybe even ready to form good relations with Israel. This is a dream. We don't know how to make it happen. We try everything that is in our capacity to weaken the regime, hoping that this will make it more probable that somebody will come up and replace it. But we don't know who this somebody is going to be. Riza Pahlavi regards himself as a candidate, but we don't believe that he's powerful enough in order to make it happen. And we are in touch with so many other people who believe that they are the next leader of Iran, but they cannot work together on anything. And it's a pity that this is the case, but this is the case. Secondly, we say, okay, if not regime change, then maybe a deal. Maybe the Iranians are going to be ready to sign it up to a deal that would put an end to their nuclear project and to their ballistic missile project. That's what President Trump is was offering them before the war. He's in a much better position to offer them this deal now. For the regime, this is something that is extremely difficult. We said it's like drinking the poisonous chalice. That's what it is for the regime right now. But there might be a point where they would say to themselves, okay, there's no other option. Are we there yet? In a way, yes, because they know that every day that passes by is more damage to their prestige and to their ability to show themselves as the rulers of Iran and the owners of a program that justifies spending so much money on, that's the nuclear program. But at the same time, admitting that they are ready to accept something that they refused to accept a moment ago is too painful for Khamenei. And in this respect, maybe the elimination of Khamenei would put in his place somebody who's going to be ready to say, okay, I'm going to get to have this deal. Because for Khamenei to accept it is something extremely difficult. And if he's not going to accept it, what has to happen is that we shall continue the battle. We shall continue pondering Iran and hitting the targets and creating some sort of a situation similar to what we have today in Lebanon. That okay, we have some agreement with the Lebanese government that allows us to take care of any attempt of Hezbollah to redeploy in the south or to rearm itself and regroup in the north, and we do it day in, day out. The last 4 days we did it less because we were busy in Lebanon, we were busy in Iran, but that's what we did until last Friday. And that's going to be the case in Iran as well, probably. That we shall enjoy our air superiority in order to make sure that the Iranians cannot revive the nuclear project. That's what it looks as if the most probable thing that's going to happen, at least in the foreseeable future, before Iran is going to accept a deal. If they accept it, it must be a real deal. A deal with no sunset items, that no limitations on the Iranian nuclear project are going to be ended by any time soon or any time at all. Deal that allows verification anywhere, anytime, done by American monitors and observers, not only by the IAEA. A deal that would deprive Iran from any part of this nuclear project, including the stockpiles and the facilities and the centrifuges, so on and so forth. That's the deal that we need to see in place before we are satisfied with our efforts. And whether it's going to happen or not, as I said, it's hard to believe this is going to happen, but all kinds of miracles happen here all the time. So that gives us the ability to dream, and maybe these dreams are going to come true. David, you had a question. Unmute yourself.
Thank you, and thank you for really an excellent briefing. I'd like some comments from someone about the effect within Israel itself, because we've seen some news items and social media, and we're all very concerned about the extent of damage within Israel. Haifa, the Weizmann Institute, Bat Yam, and has Iran used hypersonic missiles as claimed on some social media? And is anyone helping Israel take out the missiles when they're in the air? So could someone make some comments?
May I answer very short answer? There is no supersonic missile. It's nonsense. They don't have any about it. Their missiles are very, very simple missiles, easy to intercept. They don't put any new challenge to our system. The damages inside Israel, there are, but very limited. The number of casualties is much less than what we had in mind during the years when we will have such an attack on Israel. And I think that 90% of those who had been killed didn't go to the shelter in time. And it's decision of people where to stay during the alarm. There is no any new challenge in what they are using. They didn't have any new card in the chest that now they are using it. I don't know about the spirit. I'm not making polls in Israel, but from what I know around me, the spirit is very high, and even those who were during the operation very much against the prime minister are supporting now the decision to go to the war against Iran. So I think that inside, in this case, we don't have any challenge, not from the Iranians' missiles and not from within the Israeli society.
Thank you.
There was a question about our ability to hit Fordow by ourselves. I think Amidor referred to that before, and I understand Alex wants to say a word about that as well. So, Alex, go ahead.
Yes, first of all, I'm not an expert, of course, on nuclear installations, but again, everyone, I think, should understand when someone hears two categorical American or Israeli explanations between the brackets or like declarations, Israel can or can not do anything, please take it limited. No Israeli high-ranking official or military commander will ever speak out all Israeli capacities. And for example, even if it is impossible to destroy Fordow from air, other methods also exist. For example, one can explode something around and prevent entry into the site. Very many possibilities. So, and there is, prior to the strike, there has always been in Israel and in the world a fixation on bombing the nuclear sites. I was always saying that the Israeli strike must be holistic, so to say, and include all high-quality targets with the goal to paralyze the regime, what is being done now. Second, all the questions and fears regarding about Russia that will help Iran or China that will help Iran. Hi, I'm saying as a Russian, Russia never helps anyone, of course, for free. The love between Iran and Russia, it's like we say in Russian, dva ежика, two hedgehogs, want to make love with each other, but it sticks, it picks and hurts. It's not a question. To the moment, we have not seen any Russian reaction. In general, Russia is not interested in our strikes, of course, but Russia is not interested in the sanctions relief from Iran either, because that exactly makes Iran feel more need in Russia. Otherwise, Iran doesn't like Russia and doesn't need it. And second, the last thing I would like to say that I sent you here in PDF two articles in French and in Italian from European newspapers. You can hear morning and evening all the apocalyptic scenarios that the situation is dangerous, that in Italian it is written, Israel can suicide itself. So I don't understand why, but the situation is dangerous, escalation, regional war. Each time I hear these nightmares, so please explain, what do you mean by a regional war? Meaning that when missiles are launched on Israel from every direction, when Israel is fought and attacked on 7 fronts, it is never a regional war, it's never escalation, it's never danger for the world. So the only danger for the world is when Israel wins. So this, again, please take it limited. And last phrase, I would like to remind why the operation is called the Rising Lion. It's not just the IDF computer who opted for this name, but it's a verse from the Bible, from the Numbers. העם כלביא יקום וכארי יתנשא. They are a nation that rises like the lion and lifts itself like the lion. They too shall not lay down until they have consumed the prey and drank the blood of the kill. This is a whole verse, and this will be done. Thank you.
Thank you, Alex. Let's hear the last questions because we are running out of time.
I would like to ask a very concise question, which I don't think have been addressed by anyone, but you precised by Amir Dror when you referred to the war between Iran and Iraq in the 80s, it lasted for many years. It was a war of attrition. And I would like to ask you or the other panelists if Israel can afford a long war, a kind of war attrition against Iran with after all vast resources. At the same time as it doesn't end the war in Gaza.
Thank you.
That is my question.
We wouldn't go to the war from the beginning if we didn't have the readiness for a long war. Iran is not, with all due respect, is not Hezbollah, and we knew that it would be a long one. And the achievement during the first 4 days, more than hinting that it will be much shorter than what we had in mind.
Thank you, Amidor. Gary, you had a question. Gary,
yes.
You've already unmuted yourself.
So the question's for the Major General. You finished off by speaking that the war's only gone 4 days. What would you estimate how long the war will go?
I don't know.
On the Israel economy.
I don't have an answer. And if I would have an answer, I will tell you. What we want is to achieve the destruction of the production system of the missiles and the nuclear capabilities. The time which is needed to do it is the time that is the duration of the war. From our point of view, we are not going to stop.